when I start to integrate things together, like spending time with my kids, spending time on my spiritual health, my mental health, and all that, and then physical, and then financial health, it's amazing how they all will lift up other areas to where we start to perform at a better level or we're achieving goals and things.
I think you're right. I think we don't make enough decisions, right? But one of the reasons why I think entrepreneurs fail is not because they had the wrong product or the lack of financing or anything like that. It's for that exact reason that you said, is that they don't understand that one of the hardest parts for me when I first launched my first business was, wait, all the responsibilities on me. At the end of the day, I'm to blame for everything. If my salesperson messed up, it's my fault. If this person messed up, it's my fault. If the system broke, it's my fault because I didn't do a good enough job. Like I joke around with a lot of people on the podcast. We have a lot of entrepreneurs on the podcast. So sometimes I go to sleep and I'm like, man, I wish I had a 9 to 5, because I go to bed. I clocked out at 5 o'clock. I'm now with my family without thinking about things. My brain is off. I'm going to dread Mondays because I got to go back to work for someone else. But like, at least my weekends are my weekends.
Yes. Don't you think it goes back? I read a book, and you've probably read this too, but Jocko and Leif, right, had wrote Extreme Ownership. And I will say that was one of the books. And then on the heels of that, Dichotomy of Leadership. If anyone hasn't read Extreme Ownership, I've gone back. I've probably read it 5 times. I've listened to the podcast. I've listened to the audio because I think the audio is really cool, hearing them read it. That changed the game for me. I realized it was all my fault as a leader, as a parent, as a dad, as a husband, all those things. When something goes wrong, when you take ownership, watch how your life changes. I stopped blaming other people, using excuses that I had held on to, and realized that that's not reality. And so when I find myself falling back into that pattern or that trigger happens and I want to blame someone else or I want to blame external circumstances, I've kind of rewired my brain in a way to go, no, Brian, that's your fault. How are we going to deal with that? Move forward. What's the next step? Let's move. And that's not easy, right? But when you can reprogram your brain and realize the potential, it changes everything.
So clearly, through everything you've been through, I mean, one of the underlying themes I've seen on this podcast of people who've had resilience and broken through, and I'm sure you see it with your podcast, and that's why you wrote the book, and we'll talk about the book in a second, but you've had to have this like killer growth mindset and a winning attitude. I'm not going to ask you how you develop that, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the winning attitude, you're a competitor, you're an athlete. We'll touch base on what you learned from that in a second, but what are the key or core components that you would say you need to have to develop a growth mindset and winning attitude?
And I love that. We talk about growth mindset a lot, and I think it does look different for different people, right? Like I come from a very high level of competitiveness that I recognized moving from high school to college. There was a difference in physical ability at that level. When you move from high school to college, you could definitely see the speed, the strength, the awareness, all these things. But what really caught my attention was this: moving from a high level collegiate, like Division I, like top 25 school, to the professional levels, the difference was here in the mindset. And I started to really pay attention to people that were successful. Why were they successful? It was how they thought on the field and off the field. It's how they did things in the other areas of our life. So I go back to, fortunately, I'm kind of a byproduct of Stephen Covey and some of those things and the whole person theory. And I go back to the growth mindset. For all of us to really succeed there, you need to think about the entire whole person. If you just focus on one area of your life, you're going to get better at that, right? So if I want to get better at my physical abilities and I want to work on that, great, I'll probably get better. What about my spiritual side? What about my relationships? What about my mental health? And I think too often we try to compartmentalize, especially men, we try to compartmentalize all of these and don't realize the integration. And you mentioned a word earlier, Jason, balance. And what I've really found is there's not a true balance. When you think about a scale, many of us will think that scale is balanced. Well, the reality is you're going to be out of balance a lot, and that's going to be normal. How do you deal with that? And the growth mindset, I believe, in my experience, is that you're going to be what some would say is out of balance, but you're integrating, meaning that there's several things I do in my life that I think have helped me, where if I'm going to go on a walk in the evening with my wife, there's several things happening there. I don't have my cell phone. I'm walking with my wife, which is phenomenal quality time. She loves that piece. I love that piece. I'm getting physical, right, stimulus. I'm getting mental stimulus because I'm not on a cell phone, watching a TV, all of that. And I think there is something spiritually that's happening when you connect up with someone that you love deeply like that. And so what I would go back to for growth mindset, if you approach it from a holistic standpoint, you will then start to see growth in other areas of your life because it's how you think and then it's how you behave. And so that's where I would start for anyone. And I'm still on that journey, right? I do not have it all figured out, but I have learned this for myself. When I start to integrate things together, like spending time with my kids, spending time on my spiritual health, my mental health, and all that, and then physical and then financial health, it's amazing how they all will lift up other areas to where we start to perform at a better level or we're achieving goals and things. Whereas if you try to come at it from just one spot, you're probably not seeing the success in your life. And that's why many people, I think, stay in a very stagnant state.
Hey, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, check out our most recent video over here. And this one is the one YouTube thinks you'll like. But if you really enjoyed watching, please do me a favor, like and subscribe over here. Thank you so much.